Hello everybody and welcome on into Sidelines, presented by Visit Potter Tioga. On today's episode, we talk with softball about their trip to Myrtle Beach, plus we reintroduce you to a familiar face now in the athletic training room. Welcome back to Sidelines. Let's talk softball with two athletes who had quite the performances down in Myrtle Beach. Morgan Berndt, Anastasia Berardi, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having us.
So let's talk about the trip, spring break. You guys obviously don't have the traditional spring break, but a chance to really bond together, play some games together. What is your favorite part about this trip?
I really enjoyed the team dinner this year. That was a lot of fun, just getting together with our parents, but you really get to know each other and spend a lot of time. We had some karaoke, the skit. It's always a good time.
Yeah, I think it's always good to build those bonds and relationships outside of the field, and I think everyone really grew together as a team.
Not only do you have that week together, of course the 12-hour bus rides that you got down there, but how important is it getting ready for conference play to start, but how important is it to get that team bonding, that off the field kind of bond, and how does that lead to on the field cooperation?
I think it was very needed this year with how many young players we have. Like coming in, there are more rookies than there are upperclassmen, and I think like really getting to know each other creates like that sense of trust on the field, especially in like certain positions. Like I know like obviously like pitchers and catchers, like we really got to work together this trip, like just making sure like you know how each other play, and especially like knowing how people react to things I think was really big to find out this trip. Like some people need some space, some people need like words of encouragement, and just figuring out what works best for each individual person will help along the way as conference starts and like the games start to get a little more intense.
Yeah, I really think it helps build everyone's confidence too, and not like one person being better than the other, just we're all as a team.
So getting to the on the field games, you guys had quite the performances throughout the week. Both of you had home runs in very different ways. So I mean, let's go for it. Let's start, Stasia, with your home run. That was a bomb out there. That if there weren't trees in there, that might still be going. Walk me through that game, that hit.
Well, definitely the type of pitching we face in Myrtle Beach is different than what we're going to see in PSAC, so I think I just had to have a different approach. This week I learned a lot of patience and like just kind of realizing that like even if you have a good hit, it doesn't always fall in, so just like staying patient, and I think everything just lined up in that moment. It was a low inside pitch and I was like, this is it. So I was pretty happy. It was a little stressful. My bat broke throughout the trip, so I had to switch bats halfway through, but it felt good to like get that swing back.
And then Morgan, yours, good old inside the Parker. Had you been up to bat one more time in that game, because it started out with inside the park, a triple, a double, I would have told them to hold you on first base. You're not allowed to go anywhere else to get that cycle. I was making that joke that whole game. But the inside the park home run, walk me through it. You hit it and just kept running.
Yeah, I think I just went in there with confidence, not really overthinking my mechanics. And once I just hit it, I just kept looking at Jean. She just kept saying go, so I just kept running around.
But how is that feeling? Walk me through, and both of you really, walk me through that feeling of I mean, yours is a lot quicker around the bases, just in terms of having to run around the bases. But what is the feeling there, like during an inside the park home run, during a home run? What is the feeling in that moment, especially going back to the dugout or getting met by your team at home plate?
I feel like it's just really hype. Like, I don't know, like it just feels good, and like it feels good that you can help the team. Like you're getting an RBI and like you're doing your job. It's just, and the energy changes. Like if you hit a home run, the whole energy like during the game, it's just like it's on your side again. Especially if you were down, like it was like we were losing at that point when I hit my home run, and it was like you could just feel the energy swing back onto our side, which I feel like is always like something that can be hard to do when you're down.
Yeah, I think it gives everyone that confidence that we're in the game, and you know, if one can do it, many others can make that good contact with the ball. So
there was a second inside the park home run in that game too from Morgan, or from Melissa there in that one. But so with these games, what is the biggest takeaway? Like, what is the biggest learning moment from these games for this week? Stasia, you mentioned about the pitching is not going to be the same that you'll see in conference, but what can you take away that is most important from these games?
We were swinging, like we were hitting the ball, and I think that's huge for us that like everybody was making like contact. Even if they weren't like got out, like they were solid contact. So I think like that's huge to carry over the energy. We played a lot of clean defense, and obviously there are things that like we can learn from and grow from, but I think like even as like the days went on down in spring break, we've like made those adjustments. So I'm excited to see like once we enter conference, like how we will continue to grow. So I think we have like a good step in the right direction going into it.
Yeah, I think it gives everyone that motivation for the rest of the season, and anything is possible. We can come back, or we're capable of winning the games. So
you guys mentioned too the fact that there is a large contingent of new faces on this team, and as kind of the upperclassmen, as some of the leaders on this team, how have you seen that role develop, especially in a trip like this, where that's their first time going on a trip like this, where you really have to step into that leadership role? What has that been like thus far in the year?
Well, I know personally, like in the fall, like me and Danny, we were named team captains, and I know like throughout that whole time, like I've really been trying to like motivate them, because I feel like it's like hard coming into college softball, like especially like starting a game, and like if it doesn't go the best, like it's easy to get down on yourself. So really like building the confidence for them, I think is huge, and I think I've seen like a lot of people break out of that shell and like really start to like be themselves, which is like amazing to see. So I think like just like being really positive with them and patient with them has been like huge, and like just like welcoming them, because I feel like a lot of them throughout like out the months we've been together have really like become themselves, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, I wasn't there in the falls with field hockey, so coming in, I think they did a great job, because sometimes I even forget that they're freshmen. They're stepping into those roles well. So
that's a really interesting point too, because you were in a different season. So how is it then to try and incorporate yourself back into this group? Like, because it is a hard thing. Like your focus is on a different sport at that time in the fall, and to get back into the group, how do you incorporate yourself back into faces who may have gotten comfortable with some of the seniors, but maybe not you at that point?
I just tried to make my way around, talk to everyone, and build those bonds fast, and I think I am pretty close with everyone, so I think it worked pretty well. And
is that an easy thing then for you, Stasia, who's been there and one of the leaders, to incorporate her back in? I mean, you already have that relationship, but like with the newbies, to kind of introduce them to Bomba.
Oh, easy. Everyone loves Bomba. We literally, like, the first practice she came back, we were all so excited, like, just seeing her back at lift. And, like, I know, like, a lot of us, like, went to her games. I was working on, but, like, we were so excited to have her back. So I think everyone was like, we were like, this is Bomba. Like, we love her.
Some of them forgot my real name. But
yeah,
it's okay.
I don't think some of them, like, knew her real name for a little bit, but we were like, Bomba. Like, don't worry, this is Bomba. So I think it was, like, easy. Not easy, but like I feel like it was really natural just to like have her back. We were just like, yes.
So of course, down there at spring break, one thing that I have to ask about is that very first day. It was 40 some odd degrees down there, and not half of the team, but a large portion of y'all decided, you know, we're at the ocean, we're going to go in the ocean.
Yeah.
What in the world? and how was that like? That had to be cold.
I mean, that was the first thing I did when I got off the bus. I went right in the ocean because it's an ocean. I mean, there's not oceans in Mansfield. You got to take advantage of it. Like, it's like an ice bath too. Just getting off the bus, just running into the waves. I just pretended like it was warm. Like I had to have like my Outer Banks moment, you know.
Mind over matter, right?
Yeah, I literally have that tattooed on me. I was like, I'm getting in the ocean one way or another. Just say I got in the ocean.
We mentioned some of the other fun things that we got to do in that hotel. There was a lazy river.
Oh, yeah.
Like we had a night there. You guys went mini golfing. Like there was a lot of fun other things to do. What was the most memorable part? Maybe it was in the ocean, but what was the most memorable part of that trip outside of the games?
I feel like G just made every day like so special for us. There was like too many good ones to choose from, and I think this trip was just like overall so like positive and like really family oriented. I feel like I'm just very thankful that we like had the opportunity and like everything G does for us. I'm not gonna lie, I really liked our St. Patty's Day. That was a lot of fun, but I don't know, outside of softball, mini golf. I lost, but I still had fun. I was getting a little frustrated though.
Hey, if you had the fun, that's what matters, right?
Yeah, I mean, Bob was killing it, so I was just rooting for Bob the whole time. Team Bob.
Bob the bus driver was killing it there.
He was so supportive too, but every time he watched me, I did so bad, and then I was like, just don't look.
Oh no. Morgan?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the mini golf and also the ice cream afterwards. I'm always down for ice cream, and that place was really good.
It was so good.
Melt was the name
Yes.
of it. Yeah, it was a great trip. So let's look forward to conference play coming up starting this week. What is the goal for this team? What is the expectation for this team?
To keep on what we're doing. I mean, like nobody really expects us to do much this year. Like if we're being honest, like we were ranked last, little bit of a hiccup last year, but we're a whole new team. We're a whole new team. We have a whole new energy. We're like a little volcano. That's our team. I was gonna say that. Yeah, that's our team thing. We're a volcano, and we're just slowly starting to erupt. And I think we're really gonna surprise a lot of teams. Like I think this week is gonna be really good for us. So I'm excited. Take them by storm. Nobody knows what's coming. We're like the definition of underdogs this year.
I love it.
Yeah, I think we're all really going to have fun too, and I think we're all capable now. So we're just going to go in there with confidence.
Should be an exciting year going forward. Thank you both so much for taking the time and stopping by.
Thank
you.
you.
And Sidelines will continue after this. Do not go anywhere.
It's all part of Mother Nature's perfect blend, the keystone of the Keystone State. Visit Potter Tioga, a 2-county scenic outdoor haven conveniently located, yet worlds apart. A place where you can kick back, unwind, and forget about the pressures of life. Disconnect and reconnect with your friends, family, or even yourself while surrounded by nature's beauty. So start planning your adventures today at visitpottertioga.com.
Welcome back to Sidelines. Let's continue now to talk softball as we have two more members of the team to talk about the Myrtle Beach spring break trip. Joining me here at the desk, we have Katelyn Mesch and Caydence Macik. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having us.
So let's jump right into it. On spring break, the trip down to Myrtle Beach. What was kind of the most memorable part of the trip? Let's start outside of the games because we'll focus on the games, but what was the most memorable part of this trip for you guys?
I think the most memorable part for me was probably just like spending like quality time with my teammates because usually when we see each other it's just kind of like we're at practice, we're at lift, so like it was nice to like late night talks, just sitting around the table and like just chilling out, talking about everything.
Yeah, I just enjoyed spending time. It really let us get to know each other way more than just in a softball sense, and seeing like going to the beach together even though it was kind of cold and everyone still got in the water.
Yeah, that part was insane. I don't know how y'all did that, but that's a really important part of it because there's a large contingent of new faces on this group. So what was it like to have that trip, that week where you could focus on softball and bonding? Like there was no schooling to worry about, there was no other distractions to worry about, that you could focus really on getting to know each other. How important was that? How truly important was that aspect?
I think the biggest part, because like having 12 freshmen, it was a lot at the beginning of the year to really get to know them. But I feel like at this point we've definitely really bonded with each other, and we all kind of have our special connections. Whereas like now that everyone's like on the field, we can kind of see like, oh, like this person plays this way, and like with Caydence coming from basketball, like you could kind of get a sense of like how she plays and getting her in. So I think the freshmen have really done a great job like stepping up into bigger roles.
Yeah, I agree. It's different because I didn't get to play like the first game with the team, so like this week was really good to like get to know how everybody works, how people are going to react to things, and even just bonding off the field, because sometimes like the freshmen are in the dorms and some of the upperclassmen aren't, so we don't always get that extra time together. So we had that. So,
and Caydence, you're at an interesting point, and I had this conversation with Morgan too before this interview, that the dual sport aspect of it, and in terms of finding that team bonding with dual sport, because you literally just came from an in-season sport where that was really a focus, and maybe you didn't get. How important is it to have like a week like this, to have a week where you can get that any of that bonding you may not have had? And in the fall, I don't know how much you were with them because you kind of had to probably juggle both of them. But how important is this week for that?
Yeah, this week was super helpful. Even like just playing with them and in and off the field, I just got to know like everyone's personalities, how we were going to work together, like working on the field together. And I was super nervous coming in because like I missed so much, but this really helped.
And then same thing for you in terms of you have a dual sport athlete here. You have Morgan who didn't get to fall with you guys. How important is a week like this to maybe in terms of the dual sport athletes to get that bond?
I feel like with our team, like our culture is kind of like we really pull people in. We want everyone to feel accepted. So we just kind of like, we act like you've been here the whole time really. And we're just like, all right, let's go. But like with Morgan, even like I've always had a strong bond with her since, because we both came in about the same time. So we kind of bonded with each other. But with Caydence, like this week, definitely just like even going down to the hot tub and like hanging out, just really get to know each other a lot better.
Yeah, some of the fun additional things, there was mini golf one night, there was the beach obviously there, a lazy river. That stuff outside of the games to get that team bonding, but also have fun with it, also have that familial feel with that. How important, and I'll stress that again, but how important like is that aspect of this week?
I don't like with mini golfing and stuff, you could kind of tell like who's like very competitive and who's just like, all right, I'm just here to have fun. But I think like those are important, just like again, get those different aspects of like just not being at softball. Like it's time to like just like relax and hang out.
Yeah, you can definitely tell like the different personalities from on the field and off the field, because like when we're in the game zone and we're like doing like we're really ready to put our 100% forward versus like when we're just messing around in the hotel, it is completely different.
Yeah, and there was a birthday party in the middle of that. There was karaoke on the bus. Like there was a lot of the fun things outside of the games. Let's jump right into the games, and let's start with that very first game. Talk about getting your number called and having to deliver. And Katelyn, the bases loaded, 2 outs, you're put into pinch hit and you send it over the fence. Walk me through it.
So, I was standing over at the dugout and I look at G and she's doing her little number sign. She's like 2 and 11, and I was trying to figure out, and I pointed at myself. She's like, yeah. So I was like, all right. I was like, I'm going to go warm up on the tee a little bit. And then, I get put into hit and there's 2 outs, bases loaded. I'm looking at this fence, is probably about 20 feet tall. I'm like, all right. And then right before I got my at bat, they switched pitchers. And I was like, okay. And I'm watching her warm up and I was like, this girl ain't really anything. And I think that was like my mindset, was like, I'm just going to crush this ball. And first pitch I whiffed and I was like, oh boy, here we go. But then the second pitch, just the sound of it off the bat, I was like, wow, that was a good hit. And I was rounding first and I look over, there's a ball flying over the fence into the trees, and just like, I don't know, that feeling of like your teammates like hitting your helmet at home and just everyone's congratulating you. And I think like the most sentimental part was like my stepdad being there and like my parents in general, because like he hasn't seen me hit a home run yet, and that was my first collegiate home run. So just like for him to see that and be like, see him so happy, it just made me really happy.
Honestly, what about first collegiate home run, a pinch hit home run, a new pitcher, like all the things that could have happened in that that specific moment, and you send it over to win the game on the run rule. So really a walk-off home run too. Add that to it. So that first day, and that first day was rushed because then you guys go right to the second game running. Was that a benefit, kind of the quick turnaround to not really kind of focus on the last one and have to focus on the next one?
Yeah, I would say it definitely was because like we had all the energy from like her hit. We were ready to go, so we just got our stuff. As G was like, "Come on, we gotta go!" So we got our stuff. We went right over and we just started playing again. It was like we never stopped.
I remember a thing that G stressed all week was about handling pressure and how you guys handle pressure. What do you think, especially in those moments where you both hit the home runs, you dealt with that pressure? How do you feel like that speech kind of at the beginning of the week or the things you guys had to do dealing with pressure at the beginning of the week has helped in those moments?
I feel like Coach G always stresses like her big thing is like pressure, you gotta love it. And that's what's gonna make you a better person at the end of the day. So to kind of like go in, you just kind of have to, like this is like kind of a make or break moment. Like, am I gonna step up and love that pressure or am I gonna let it push me down? And I think the biggest part is just like you really need to like step up and just not even think about it and just do your thing like any other normal day.
Yeah, and it's important to know like your teammates have your back no matter what happens. If you do hit a home run, if you strike out, they will be there to lift you up. So there's no need to be too worried about anything.
So what can be your biggest takeaways from this whole week of playing games against the opponents that you guys played against? What is kind of, as conference play is looming, what is the biggest takeaway from this week?
I definitely think our hitting is like, it's a big change in our game, and I think that's what's going to make the big difference. Like, if we, like, errors happens. Like, if errors do happen in the field, we're able to pick that up with our hitting, and I think that's going to really take us farther into, like, playoffs, and that's what I'm looking for, is I think this team could really do something in playoffs this year.
Yeah, I agree, and, like, knowing we can trust our teammates and we all have each other's backs, no matter who's, like, where they are, what's going on in the game, we never give up.
So, I mean, and too, looking at that, how I hate dwelling on this, but like the fact that there were games that got away on errors, like that first loss of that was a game that really kind of got away because of errors. But the how you guys can respond to that, how important is that aspect of learning that in this where there's not a lot of pressure getting ready for conference play?
I think the biggest thing is like you make an error, your teammates are going to pick you up and you just need to move on from it, because if you sit and dwell on it, it's just going to take you down even more. You just have to move on to the next play and get like that next at bat to really just like pick everything up. And I think our team does like a good job picking each other up and just like letting things go. So like we know like we need to move on in order to like really get the game keep going.
Yeah, even in like the very last game that we played down there, we didn't start off super strong. We had quite a few errors, and like I think from the first game where we still lost, we didn't really pick ourselves back up, and then to that game was a drastic change because we came back. We didn't stop fighting the whole time.
Yeah, important to get that kind of game where, as you just said, that you had to claw, you had to fight your way back into and ultimately get. So again, what are the goals? Let's talk about this year as we look forward to conference play starting. What kind of are the goals? You touched on it briefly, but the expectations, the goals for this team from inside the team.
I know a lot of us, like the upperclassmen, like we're definitely looking to go to playoffs, and we want to do the best that we can do, and we really just want to make it to that end goal. Is like essentially like winning the conference. Like who wouldn't want to do that? But like, you know, we just have to keep like moving our way through, and like we just all keep looking towards playoffs and rolling through each game and taking those sweeps. So I don't know, I think the freshmen have definitely like contributed a lot to like really step up to help us make that goal.
I mean, this is my first season, so like I want to win as much as we can and just get better as a team, so then we aren't losing very many seniors, so we can only go up from here.
That's always a positive, absolutely. Well, thank you both so very much for taking the time and stopping by.
Yes,
Thank you for having us.
And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go anywhere.
Pride and passion drives the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. From 55 NCAA championship teams, 294 individual national champs, and counting. Who's next? Make the PSAC yours. PSAC Proud is winning in athletics and in the classroom. Over 3,100 PSAC student athletes are honored as scholar athletes. It's a perfect mix of athletics and academics. It's time to make the PSAC yours.
Welcome back to Sidelines. Let's go behind the scenes here in Mansfield Athletics with not quite a new face, but a familiar face in a new role here at Mansfield. Bryce Zaparzynski, thank you so much for taking the time and stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So a new athletic trainer here on Mansfield's campus. The Zaparzynski legacy continues. First of all, what does it feel to be back?
Feels like home. I was very nervous the first day coming back on my drive up here, and as soon as I got off the exit and got into Mansfield, I realized it was home, and I was comfortable again, and it was nice seeing some familiar faces, Brian, Kayla, you, Owen, a bunch of my colleagues here now. It was nerve-wracking at first, but it feels comfortable now, and I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, what was that first couple of days like where, yeah, it's been a little time, obviously, since you were a student here, but coming back to the familiar look of things, and how easy was it to kind of move on to that next step in life in terms of seeing this as the job as opposed to the school?
The first week was kind of a weird feeling, I guess you could say. You know, I still kind of felt like I didn't have my bearings. I had been in this training room for how many years growing up, but it was really never like, okay, now I need to realize where everything's at in the training room. I need to know, what the system is that Brian and Kayla have now put in for everything, and kind of get my bearings with that was the reason I kind of saw it as more of a job. You know what I mean? Like, you've always walked into that training room and just been like, okay, let's get treatment, let's do this. Now you're in there with more of a purpose to help other people. So it was a good transition, I feel like, that first week.
So obviously with your mother had been a long time Mansfield trainer, and you've known Brian Oakes for a long time. What was it like working, or what is it like really working with Brian Oakes, someone you've known pretty much your entire life?
I enjoy it. I like it a lot. He's has a lot of knowledge that he's gained from his almost 30 years here. Like you said, I've known him since he was there when I was born. So it's been awesome. And Kayla as well. I've already learned in my first 3 weeks here. I've already learned a couple different things from them that I'd like to use in my clinical applicant. But it's surreal too, because I've always seen Brian as just like, oh, that's mom's colleague, he's a family friend and all that, and now it's like, okay, I'm coming to you with any of my issues, with any questions I have, so you kind of just take that for granted when you first know him, and now when you really talk to him and have those conversations, it's like, oh, he's very insightful, and I'm glad I'm working with him. I'm excited for the future as we continue to go. The
relationship certainly takes a shift.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I mean. Like it goes from, okay, we can kind of talk freely, and now it's like, okay, you're my boss, so I want everything needs to be cordial. We need to have good conversations, but there's still that friendship aspect as well. We're still good friends. So,
was there any piece of advice that your mother gave you coming into this?
There was a bunch. She for Mansfield, not necessarily. I mean, I guess one good piece of advice that she gave me going into the athletic training field was, obviously be friends with everyone, you need to be cordial with everyone, but your best friend is going to be the custodial staff. And I learned that actually right away when I was first with UPMC, when I was at Canton, and the custodial staff there, they were the absolute best people ever, and they have been at Jersey Shore and here, so that was like the main. I don't know why that is like the advice that really sat with me, and I took that for for what it was. But yeah, her main thing was loyalty. be loyal to your coworkers, be loyal to your school, and you know, good things will happen.
So what's kind of the approach, and what are kind of the key things you focus on with a student athlete? Obviously, different sports, there's going to be different things to focus on, but what are kind of the keys to the way you operate, I guess?
I mean, I guess it's tough to answer that question. Like you said, it's different with each athlete. Mm-hmm. You know, they all have different personalities, and you got to kind of find that common ground with them where, like, hey, you know, like, for example, an athlete that comes in that has an injury that is probably going to be out for a week or two or an extended period of time. And that's a hard thing to, you know, talk about with them because mm-hmm. obviously they're here for school and to play. And when you take away that playing aspect and now they're just like, okay, I'm going to school and I'm injured and I'm miserable, it's mm-hmm. like that's a very hard conversation to have. So finding some common ground when having those conversations and making it, you know, making them understand that you're there for their benefit as well. Do you know what I mean? And you're not just there to, okay, yeah, you can't play and I don't care about that, you know? So that's one thing that I really try to focus on is realizing, you know, because I was an athlete once here, you know, these kids want to play, and when you take that away from them, it's going to be a miserable experience. But also another thing that I like to focus on when the kid walks in is getting the whole picture. You know, this injury, whatever injury you're dealing, whatever soreness that you're dealing with, let's try and get the whole picture and see if we can come up with a solution from maybe something that stems back 2-3 months ago that you did, or a habit that you have, that you formed that's causing you to have this pain. Let's try and look at everything from the big picture is my main goal when someone new walks in.
Do you think the fact that you were an athlete here has helped you with that in terms of the common ground that you were just talking about, the fact that you can pull off your experiences at the same university that they're at? How much of a factor does that help you? Oh,
it's astronomical. I think it's not that me being an athlete here like it makes me more knowledgeable in any sense, mm-hmm. not in any sense of the word, but I think it helps with, like you said, you can kind of see the athletes' side of things and understand, empathize with their feelings, you know what I mean? Because again, I'm here for the kids, I'm here for the athletes. I want them to perform better than they've ever performed, and when you can kind of take your experiences as an athlete and help construct their experiences, it's fulfilling, and I think it helps the kids too. I hope it helps the kids, and that's what I'm here for, right?
So, I mean, to that point, like, it's different in your position when we talk about like goals and things you want to accomplish, but like, what are some of those things you hope to really either accomplish in this first year or really get comfortable doing in this first year?
One of my biggest goals is to develop a rapport with the majority of the athletes, mm-hmm. so they feel comfortable coming to me with any issues. And I know they already are that way with Kayla and Brian. They're very comfortable with them. And me being the new guy, I kind of got to work that relationship in with a lot of these athletes. And so when they come in, they're not, well, I don't really want to talk about what's actually going on. I just kind of want to talk about the surface things. And it's like, okay, I want you to be comfortable to come and talk to me about not just physical problems. Mental health is huge. I want to talk about those things, and some athletes aren't comfortable doing that. So that's my main goal, is to develop a rapport as quickly as possible with the athletes. And then I guess I don't want to say it's unrealistic, but another main goal of mine is to keep kids healthy with preventative care, mm-hmm. rather than, post-injury. We're just dealing with injuries all the time. And that starts in the weight room with Evan. Evan's doing a good job, and I think that's one of his main goals as well, is to work on mobility, work on those eccentric muscles that will keep you healthy in the long run. So
that's a point that I think is really important to touch on. How important is the relationships between you and not only the strength and conditioning coach, but you and the head coaches as well?
Very important. I mean, one of my biggest things learning in grad school was how important just talking to a coach is about an athlete. I didn't realize that that's something that the trainer has to do. When I was first like, I want to be an athletic trainer, I didn't realize you're going to have to, every athlete that has an issue and has an injury, you're going to need to go talk to the coach about this, whether it be through email, hopefully not. I mean, if you can text and you have that relationship, that's fine, but I'm more of a face-to-face guy, so I want to go talk to you face-to-face, but sometimes that's a little nerve-wracking. So you have to have a good relationship with those coaches, and same with the strength and conditioning coach. They're the ones taking care of those athletes when you're not, you know what I mean? Taking care of their bodies when the athlete's not taking care of it and the trainer's not. That strength and conditioning coach is the guy who's like, okay, how are you feeling today? What are we going to do today to make you stronger and make you feel better? So both of those, huge relationships. And I think you should have a relationship with everyone in the building you work with, all your colleagues, but I think those two groups, the coaches and your strength and conditioning coach, those are the two big ones. That's like, okay, you need to have a good relationship with them. So,
absolutely. Well, first of all, congratulations again for coming back home, and thank you so much for taking the time and stopping by.
Absolutely. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate it.
And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go anywhere. And that's going to do it for this show, folks. To stay up to date on all things Mansfield Athletics, head over to GoMounties.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.